There's usually one person in a relationship who does all of the trip planning, and that person is me. Ever since I've been with my husband, which is more than 20 years, married for 12 years, I've done the trip planning. But after we had kids, I got tired of planning trips. I realized that I preferred to stay home. I loved my daily routine and I preferred staycations over vacations. It didn't really feel worth it to me to drag my young kids on a vacation because traveling with a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old feels like the exact opposite of a vacation. So after we moved to Korea, I stopped planning trips and my husband decided to become the trip planner in our relationship. He speaks Korean fluently, and if you want to get out of the major cities, that's really an advantage. There are actually a lot of hotels that are not listed on hotels.com or the usual websites, so foreigners don't always have access to them, unless you can search in Hangul. And because these places aren't really visited by foreigners, there's not always information available about them in English. So this video is going to be about the time that my husband decided to plan a trip for me. He discovered this island called Purple Island, and purple is my favorite color. We later found out that Purple Island is part of a chain of islands famous for salt farms. And about 8 to 10 years ago, it was discovered that there were some salt farmers who forced disabled people to work as slaves, which is so horrible. So you can keep that in mind when deciding whether or not to visit this place. I don't think we knew about it when we went, and slavery is horrible, but I have to say that my own country, the United States of America, has committed some pretty serious atrocities against human beings that they brought over from Africa as slaves over 100 years ago, which was pioneered by the Europeans. So it would be hypocritical for me as an American to look down on Korea as a whole for this. I mean, in America, there are still people who feel the consequences of this history. So anyway, the short of it is we visited Purple Island. It's way down in the southwest part of the country, 6 hours from Seoul and about 4 hours from where we were living at the time. We stayed in a hotel in Mokpo, which is the closest major city to Purple Island. Ever since I stayed in a hotel in Sokcho that didn't let us flush the toilet paper down the toilet because the plumbing was weak, I've been a little bit wary of leaving big cities. But luckily, our hotel in Mokpo allowed us to flush our toilet paper down the toilet.
Pretend the YouTuber had to sit here. So, Mom, you're the YouTuber, so you're our boss, so sit here. Mom, you're our boss, so sit here. The boss has
If I'm the boss, then why are you telling me what to do?
This is the fancy chair for boss.
Oh, I see. Here's the bathroom. We have a toilet in here, the bidet, it doesn't work. And then here's the shower. And in this hotel, they give us this Korean style towel, which is basically a hand towel. This is our hotel in Mokpo, the Fontana Hotel. We walked around our hotel and ate dinner at this really amazing restaurant. It's famous for these dumplings. Before I moved to Korea, I didn't realize how diverse Korean food was. Like, I would eat Korean barbecue at restaurants, and my grandma, who's also Korean, cooked food for me, but it was usually pretty limited to non-spicy food. And then when I met my husband, I started eating more diverse Korean foods, but there are so many foods in Korea that I had never seen or heard of in the US.
So a surprise in your mouth.
It's like the cookie that's been sitting in water for too long because the outside of the edges are a little too slimy, right? It's like it's been over soaked in water.
She wants rice?
Yeah, she wants plain rice. It's alright. This is unexpected. It's like, it tastes like rice cake that's covered with white bean paste. And then it's soaked in this rice chicken syrup. Just regular soba. You want me to put it on your plate? Yes? Yes or no? This is interesting. These are like buckwheat noodles, and you think they're going to be soba noodles, but they're really chewy. I wish they would have brought it all at the same time so I could have taken a nice video or photo of this.
Where do you want this?
You can have it. This is shike, concentrated shike syrup. It's really good. So good, huh?
She probably likes a little bit of spice in her food because that's how she eats in her preschool.
She's Korean.
That's why I eat spicy stuff because I mostly eat spicy stuff at school.
Oh, okay. You want to eat it? It's super hot right now, though. It's a vinegar, soy sauce with scallions. It kind of reminds me of like a Chinese dumpling. I like how it doesn't have too much garlic, too. I know I like this. It's vegetarian. It has no meat in it.
Does it not?
Yeah, I don't think this has meat. I think it has tofu. Oh no, there's meat. I think there's pork in here. After you eat a dumpling, you want to eat something spicy and fresh, like kimchi. So that meal was surprisingly amazing for me. After dinner, we headed over to the Mokpo cable car, and I didn't realize this, but as I was watching the old footage from the video, my husband planned everything out to a T.
Cable car.
Right now?
We'll go probably around dinner time, so we can see the sunset. Sun's gonna set. Reflecting off of the whole thing.
This place was such a gem, and taking the cable car at dusk was honestly one of the highlights of our trip.
So far. Oh, this one is a clear one. Oh, 옆으로 가, 옆으로. 중간으로. Got the crystal cable car. We have to take our mask off now. Oh, that's worth it. That's worth it. It's worth the wait. Oh, Valentina, look down here.
We'd paid extra and waited longer to ride the crystal cable car, which has a glass floor, and it wouldn't have been my choice, but I was so glad that my husband chose it. It was clear and it was so cool that we could see all the way to the bottom. My husband's family has a tradition of always taking the cable car wherever they go. If there's a cable car there, you can bet that they've been on it. The Palm Springs cable car, there's one at Oakudani in Japan, and Kawaguchiko that I remember taking with his family. But this was by far one of the best cable car rides that I've ever taken.
Wait to the next island.
Oh, we're not gonna get off and stop here? We're probably gonna. Afterwards, we headed to this Korean bakery that's really famous for its shrimp bread. When I walked into the bakery, I was immediately underwhelmed because it was one of those traditional Korean bakeries, and personally, I'm kind of partial to the Paris baguettes and Paris croissants, or the more European style bakeries like Gonchon Cherrier. But the shrimp baguette at this bakery was so good that I forgot to take a video of it. We were lucky because we got a couple of them fresh out of the oven. This is so minor and random, but as we were driving to and from the bakery, we got to drive under this little light display on the town street, and it kind of reminds me of Little Italy in New York or maybe Greenwich Village during Christmas time, but little things like this bring me joy. The next morning was Purple Island Day, and from Mokpo, I think it took us about an hour to get. So we drove about 4 hours from where we live near Camp Humphreys, or if you're coming from Seoul, it takes about 6 hours. And then from Mokpo, we drove another hour to get there. And by the way, if you wear purple, then you don't have to pay an entry fee, which is about $3 or $4 US. Not much, but the kids wore purple dresses and I wore my purple glasses. And when you're driving to Purple Island, don't forget to look out for this cute mural of the Korean grandma and grandpa with trees growing out of their hair. We knew we were getting close when we saw the rooftops on some of the houses that were painted purple.
What are we gonna see?
The tide is out or something, I guess. It looks so,
Mom, what does janky mean?
janky means like not very nice. So we finally arrived and we were so excited.
거기에서 티켓을 사고 그걸로 통해서 거기 가면은 아무 안내도 없고 그쪽에 안내도 없고 아무것도 없어요.
What happened?
Starting today, this is no longer an entrance, it's an exit.
Oh, really?
So you have to buy the ticket there. I think because people just come here and they're not really visiting the other island.
Oh.
They're basically forcing people to just.
So when
Oh, there's a bunch of stuff on the island that we could visit. Come on, let's go.
we had to go pee, and then there's no sister's diaper. We would have to carry her like this while she was peeing.
I know.
We should get away from those people. Come on. They're coming close. They're coming close. Don't put it back. Yeah.
You guys, look at the rice. The rice.
Look behind you.
See those little stems on top? I think that's where the rice comes from. See those little stems down there?
Should we go pick one?
No,
Why?
because that's not ours.
Do it for free.
보라색 소리를 가지고 있으면 자동으로 입장이 가능합니다. 전체 안에가 보라색 소리이기 때문에 보라색 우산을 쓰는 게 가장 좋습니다. 이렇게 보라색 입고 오면 좀 다르죠.
Is this thing that I should get a vest to have a family coordination?
Where's my hat?
Oh, that's a big.
Where's your hat?
I don't know. Did you leave it in the car?
Well, turn around. Show mommy.
So Purple Island is actually made up of 2 different islands, and they're connected by bridges to the mainland. So if you're wondering why there are bridges, there is sometimes water under the bridge, but when we arrived, the water had completely receded. So I think it depends on the time of day and year that you visit.
Those are crabs. Look over here, girls. Wow, such a.
And crawling in the sand, there were these little crabs that had only one giant claw, and the other claw was really small. It was really weird. I think it was probably too far away to capture on video. So as you guys can see, this is pretty much an Instagram dream, and it's so pretty. I posted a lot of photos from this place on my Instagram already, but actually I have since deleted the app from my phone. I didn't delete my account, so I still have photos up, but I just deleted the app from my phone, and I highly recommend it. It has improved my life so much. So when I used to look at my screen time report on my phone, I would spend so much time on Instagram, and I felt like it was just so unnecessary and really just taking attention away from my kids. And so at the end of last year, I made a resolution to stop using Instagram so much, and I went so far as to delete the app from my phone. And like for the first month, I kind of had this withdrawal. I felt like a little bit bored when I would look at my phone, but honestly, I don't miss it at all. And I think my life is so much better. I think I've been getting more sleep, and when I wake up in the morning, instead of scrolling my phone for half an hour to an hour, I will get up and work out. And I've been able to work out consistently this year. And generally, I feel like I've been a lot less distracted, and I've been more present with my kids.
Butterflies.
Oh, look at the butterfly on that flower. It's so pretty.
The butterfly's so...
There's also supposed to be lavender fields here, but by the time we arrived, the season had passed and there was no more lavender.
That's just a rock, but people think it's chocolate, so they eat it.
You think so? It looks like chocolate?
Yeah, probably people think that's chocolate, so they just eat it. They spit it out.
Ew.
Ew. Hold my hand tight.
Okay.
Some drink. That's such an Instagram photo.
Yeah, it is.
A little bit of sunflower on the back there. Look over here, cheese.
Lemonade.
So this was the only cafe that we saw on this island, and by the time we arrived, we were kind of hungry and really thirsty. And they had this ice cream that they typically sell at the convenience store, and then some drinks that were in bags. So the pickings were pretty slim. So we just had some ice cream, but I really wish that they would have had like better drinks and maybe some food that was a little bit more substantial than ice cream. But I know that this island is still developing, so maybe in the future they'll have more cafes and restaurants to choose from.
So I'm going angel.
On the way back to the island, the bridge looks a little bit different. It has this purple frame instead of the purple on the ground, and I think it would have been really pretty if there was water instead of brown sand under the bridge, and also if the sky was a little bit bluer when we went. We were starving by the time we reached the end, and I wish they would have had some restaurants. There was like a chicken takeout place, but I wish they would have had some really good home-style Korean food. We stopped and took a photo here, and there was like a fire nearby, so we just took a photo and left. And then on the way back, we saw this stand by the side of the road. So I was hoping that they would have regular food, but they were selling hotdog, which is this fried piece of dough with seeds and sugar inside. I guess it's kind of like a pancake. And they also had salt and seaweed. I don't know why it was so cloudy on Purple Island, because when we were leaving, the sky was this gorgeous blue color with fluffy white clouds. Afterwards, we visited this picturesque tower. We could have gotten there the other day from the end of the cable car, but we didn't go because it was already dark. So this looks like a really pretty picture, but due to the heat, it was really a treacherous journey getting there. My husband took turns carrying the girls, and we also saw these really bright red crabs. It was so interesting to see them in the middle of the mountain.
Here's good to have you.
I'm so happy about her acorn tree. Ow. I think we picked up some onigiri on the way back, but this was our first real meal of the day, and we were so tired and hungry.
Basically, you take the meat and you add it to this, and that's what you get.
What do you think, Sienna? Good?
You do it. 너 마늘 넣지 않아. 얘도 해야 되니까. 좀 더 세게. 세게. 좀 더 세게.
This is one of those restaurants that's open 24 hours and they serve this bean sprout soup, which is incredibly cheap. I think maybe one bowl is the equivalent of $3 to $4 US. You crack the egg into the soup while it's boiling and it cooks.
So good. Dried fish or something?
The soup is unseasoned, so you don't add salt. Instead, they have this salty baby shrimp that you can add to give it a little bit more flavor, and you can also add hot pepper if you want it to be spicy. It's all meat. There's no vegetables.
What?
Like 100% meat.
Yeah,
And then a couple doors down from the restaurant, we found this amazing coffee shop. We didn't know that it was going to be good, but we did buy a bag of coffee to bring home, and it was really good coffee. And the barista had this really fancy technique of making our coffee. I don't know if he was just cooling it down or if this added something to the coffee. I think it made it bubbly. We drove along the coastline on the way home, and there were a lot of beaches, so we stopped at one of the beaches to just kind of play and look for shells, and there were a lot of treasures on this beach.
It's a fossil.
Oh, that's so cool. Was it worth the 6-hour drive? Should you visit Purple Island? It's kind of hard to say because my experience might be completely different from yours. Maybe the weather won't be so hot. Maybe on Purple Island the flowers will actually be in bloom and the water will not have receded. And maybe when you go, they will have improved the cafe or opened hotels nearby, so you don't have to drive an hour from Mokpo to get there. Not every experience will be the epitome of perfection, and that's okay, because that's life. Life is not Instagram. Not everything is perfect, but it's perfectly imperfect. There are pockets of unexpected perfection, like the breathtaking sunset that we saw from the crystal cable car, or this really delicious meal that we had in Mokpo, or the shrimp bread that I forgot to film. Sienna and Valentina, when you watch this video 10 years from now, will you remember these moments? Screaming whenever we went through a tunnel, or getting excited about staying in a hotel and arguing about who gets the table and who gets the desk, and then reaching a compromise? If there's a cable car in a city that you happen to visit, will you pass over it for other attractions, or will you take the cable car and ride it and remember the times that we rode cable cars together as a family? And Sienna, will you remember those green acorns that you found on our hike to the tower that just made your day? It's not about everything always being perfect in what you expect. It's about the joy in discovering something unexpected and unknown, and being present and making memories about those things with your family and loved ones. And when you do find something that's perfectly perfect, make sure to pause and take notice and take it all in. Remember the sights, the smells, the tastes, the way that you felt at that moment. Because before you know it, the moment will have passed.